Hi everyone, I want to talk to you just a few minutes about your literature review. First of all, remember you will have a literature review outline before the literature review, so I'll just address it in both the literature review and the outline together. First of all, the most important decision between a research proposal and a research report is that a research proposal is just a plan for proposed research, a research you plan to do. You're really not going to do the research. That sometimes confuses some of my students. They think they're going to have to go out and collect data and actually do the research, and you're not. You're just doing a plan. Like before I did my dissertation, I had to do a research proposal so that it would be, and it had to be approved before I could go out and collect my data and do the research. One of the pieces in a research proposal is your literature review. And the purpose of the literature review is to find out what has been done regarding your topic or regarding your problem. Have there been research studies done before on this problem, and what did they find out? And does it support or refute your hypothesis or what you think will happen? You're going to develop an outline, and the purpose of the outline is to keep you organized and focused. One of the problems that I saw when I first started teaching research methods, and don't get me wrong, writing literature reviews are difficult. I had to learn myself. But one of the first problems that I found was a lot of times people would just do essays just over a topic they're interested in, and they really did not use any supporting literature. Or they would do a literature review, but they would do it as an outline of the studies as opposed to an outline of progression of the topic. So, like for example, in paragraph 1, they'd tell me what Jones and Smith did. In paragraph 2, they'd tell me what Miller and Braxton did, and so forth. And that's not how you do a literature review. So that is why I have you do the outline first. With the outline, you start with basically your problem statement in your introduction. You come up with a thesis that has at least 3 supporting things that you're going to talk about in your literature review. So, for example, if your literature review was on science education, the first one are problems in elementary science education. The first one might be a lack of science teachers committing to teaching science. The second one might be barriers they experience. And the third one might be things that have improved teaching science, and so forth. But if you have this outline, it makes it much easier to do the literature review. So your literature review should contain a minimum of 5 paragraphs and a reference page. The introduction, 3 supporting paragraphs, and summary. Now I want you to follow APA 6th edition headings. I like headings, but you don't put a heading for introduction. You leave that one blank. But then you might do a heading for literature review, and then out of the literature review, make headings for each of your points. It just makes it so much easier and flows so much better. So much easier for the reader, and it flows better. It's very important to get your limit, I believe, is 4 to 5. It's 5 research studies, with 4 being empirical. 5 to 7 is good if you can find it. Remember, your review of literature is a narrative or organized essay on the topic, but don't confuse an organized essay with an organized essay of your voice. It's not your voice. You're reporting what the research says. You're reporting what the research says that supports or refutes your topics, your points that you're making in each of your paragraphs. One of the things that I like to see is, and what most recommend, is that your literature review is like a funnel. You start with the broad topic and you narrow it down. So if we were doing science education, we are in elementary teachers, you start with the broad topic of science education and the problems maybe that they're having, and then you narrow it down to how we're finding the solutions. This goes on, your instructions tells you exactly what you're supposed to do, that you start with the introduction, minimum of 3 supporting paragraphs, and then don't forget your summary. Many students seem to forget to put the summary. In the summary, just give me a 3 or 4 sentences concluding about, summarizing what your essay says about your topic or about your problem. And then, of course, don't forget your reference page. Now, please follow APA. I'm pretty much a stickler on APA standards, especially for your citations and especially for your reference pages. Here's some important styles in APA. Cover page, properly formatted, running head, are the pages numbered, are you using proper verb tense? And when you are writing literature review, you must use past tense because the studies have already happened. Make sure you cite. A lot of times people will write a paragraph and then not include a citation till the end, and I think they haven't even cited anything, and they're just saying this from their own voice, and from their own thoughts. So make sure you cite all the way through the paragraphs, and make sure they're correctly formatted. Make sure your number of citations match your references. You don't need anything cited that is not in the reference list, or anything referenced that's not in the text. And avoid colloquial expressions. A lot of times we say things as if we're speaking to one another. So, for example, instead of saying the teacher handed out the surveys, you might say the teacher distributed the surveys. Instead of saying the buck stops here, say that it stopped. You know how we use common phrases. You don't do that in technical or scholarly writing. Another thing that you need to avoid is anthropomorphisms, and that is attributing human characteristics to inanimate sources. And this is done, and I watch myself because I do it as well. But for example, an experiment or the study cannot demonstrate, control, interpret, or compare, nor can tables or figures interpret or compare. This experiment and the study and tables and figures can show or indicate, so that those 2 words are acceptable. Limit your use of passive voice, and also avoid using personal pronouns. When you get to the methodology section, I don't use personal pronouns. That's just my preference. You can, in the methodology section, you can state, I am going to do this, but not in the research, in the literature review. Also, make sure you're clear and concise. Less is more when it comes to academic writing. Plagiarism policy. It's very, very important that you're careful not to plagiarize because it will be checked. We have a Safe Assign tool on the on Blackboard that I will use, and it is open for you to use too, so you need to make sure that it's not more than 20 to 30% plagiarized. Sometimes if you go back and look, you'll see that the only thing that you've plagiarized were the references, and that's okay, but just make sure it's not in the text. Let's see. Also, one little clue that someone gave me when I was beginning my academic writing. Do not ever use more than 3 words of something you've cited. You change everything, you paraphrase it, and then you cite the source. And don't forget to fill out your self-assessment. Thank you, and I hope this helped.